All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants.
Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're alive. Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure you are following me on Telegram. I cannot stress that enough. Telegram. That way you will never miss a notification. You don't have to worry about YouTube foolishness. Oh, they unsubscribe me from your channel. If you're following me on Telegram at TD Media Group, you don't have to worry about any of that nonsense. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below, and will be pinned in the comment section once this stream ends. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get the show started and let's get the news flowing, right? So the talk of today is that President Bukele from El Salvador, or as I will now refer to him as, shout out to my man Blacklight Revelations, Bitcoin Bukele. Bitcoin Bukele, the president of El Salvador, was here today speaking with Trump. Huge, press conference, and surrounding it. It was a big deal. And obviously everyone was talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 gang member who was deported back to his home country of El Salvador, right? As we all know, the DNC left-wing press are desperate for the MS-13 gang member to be returned back to the United States, which is insanity. And the articles surrounding it, they just made me chuckle and they made me laugh because of how disingenuous and disgusting these people are. Now, in case you missed it, President Bukele essentially said, I'm not returning anybody, okay? Kilmar is staying home in El Salvador where he belongs with us in his home country. And the press is going completely out of their minds over this. I just want to go over a few articles. We're not going to read a few of the headlines. We're not going to actually read these articles. But like I said, the stuff just kind of made me chuckle. Look at this here. White House and El Salvador's president make clear mistakenly deported man won't be returned to the U.S. He was not mistakenly deported. We've gone over this 1,001 times. That's a highly deceptive way of framing it, but that's intentional, right? And you keep seeing this, and we've been seeing this for weeks now. Look at this here from NBC News. El Salvador's president says he won't return mistakenly deported man to the U.S. Once again, he was not mistakenly deported. These are just kind of the talking points that have been pre-written for the DNC media outlets. Look at this here from USA Today. Check this out. Wrongly deported man not leaving El Salvador prison, Bukele says at Trump meeting. And you keep saying wrongly deported. All right, man. But this was my favorite headline here. This right here was my favorite. It's from Politico. Look at this. Trump's new favorite authoritarian is helping him sidestep court orders. That genuinely made my day. Trump's new favorite authoritarian is helping him sidestep court orders. You guys let me know if this is your definition of an authoritarian, right? So ridiculous and so disingenuous. That's why Democrats have a 21% approval rating. I like to refer to them as the 21 percenters, right? So here's why you are all the 21 percenters. As it pertains to, Bukele in El Salvador, and apparently now he's an authoritarian, right? This is a man that took El Salvador from being the murder capital essentially of the world to the safest country, or one of the safest countries in the world, and arguably the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, right? Let's take a look at this here. I mean, just Google knows everything, right? And Google is left leaning also, especially their AI. So, I mean, even Google's AI is giving it up and saying, if you ask, is El Salvador one of the safest countries? Google's AI, which is left leaning, also says yes. Recent reports and data suggest that El Salvador is indeed considered one of the safest countries in the world. While once known as the murder capital of the world, El Salvador has made a remarkable turnaround in security. This transformation is largely attributed to President Bukele's strong stance against gang violence and the implementation of emergency measures. And then it gives a host of reasons of why and what happened in the country that turned it from being literally the murder capital of the world to one of the safest countries in the world. But for those of you, DNC lunatics, I'll give you a little bit of what you want. I'll give you a little fear mongering, concerning, El Salvador being a police state, apparently, and whatnot. I'll give you guys a little bit of what you want here, because in this article here from Latin America Reports, though it does, I guess the word I'm looking for is what, begrudgingly? It begrudgingly has to admit that El Salvador is one of the safest countries in the world. At the same time, it says at what cost, because it's now become a police state, right? So I'll give this to you guys. El Salvador named one of the world's safest countries in 2023, but at what cost? Let's read a little bit of this. Let's go through this very quickly. Once known as the murder capital of the world, El Salvador was named one of the safest countries in 2023 by Gallup, a US-based global analytics and advisory firm. As the only Latin American country included in the top 10 safest countries, I want to say that one more time because this is an authoritarian we're talking about. As the only Latin American country included in the top 10 safest countries, 88% of Salvadorians surveyed respondents answered that they felt safe walking alone at night in the area where they live, as per Gallup's Global Safety Report. According to the firm, people's perceptions of safety are highly related to hard data and contribute to the firm's Law and Order Index. The index, which highlights El Salvador as 15th on the global ranking with a score of 89, considers indicators like income, health, food security, and homicide metrics, in addition to perceptions of safety. Now, here's where we get into some of the fear-mongering quotes, and then we'll move on. Like I said, I just wanted to give this to the DNC lunatics. Although the country has drifted toward becoming a police state, the government's crackdown on gangs, incarcerating approximately 2% of the country's population, has made the country safer for now, the report indicates. What else is going on in El Salvador with this authoritarian? Well, now that El Salvador is one of the most safest countries in the world, tourism is skyrocketing. Is tourism going up in El Salvador? Well, Google's AI, which is left-leaning, says yes, tourism is experiencing significant growth in El Salvador, with projections and recent data indicating substantial increase in visitors, numbers, and economic impact. El Salvador is emerging as a leading tourism destination in Latin America, with projections and reports highlighting its strong recovery and growth. Yet, Politico would like for you to believe that this man is an authoritarian. Why is he an authoritarian? Well, because apparently him and Trump have a great relationship. So if you have a good relationship with Trump, Now the media is going to label you as an authoritarian, despite the fact that Bukele, Bitcoin Bukele, took his country from being literally the murder capital of the world to literally one of the safest countries in the world, with tourism now skyrocketing. Once again, there's a reason why you DNC lunatics, your approval rating is 21%. And the people, it appears, can see through all of the foolishness and all of the garbage that you all put out and you produce. And speaking of foolishness and garbage, take a look at this here. Look at this here. News: Senator Chris Van Hollen requested a meeting with Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele this week to talk about Maryland father Kilmar Abrego Garcia's return. And I quote, "If Kilmar is not home by midweek," mind you, this is a senator who has no authority, no power to make any type of demands to the president of El Salvador, okay? But this is what he said. If Kilmar is not home by midweek, I plan to travel to El Salvador this week to check on his condition and discuss his release. This is grandstanding at a whole nother level. This is extreme grandstanding that we're witnessing right here, right now. Once again, this man is a mere measly U.S. senator, right? And yes, you are a mere and measly U.S. senator when you're making the kind of demands that you're making with authority to the president of El Salvador. That is crazy, right? What he needs to be worrying about is this right here. This came from Rapid Response 47. They responded to Senator Chris Van Hollen, and they said, "Hey, Chris Van Hollen, Rachel Morin, a Maryland mother, was actually your constituent, and she was murdered by an illegal immigrant gang member. Now you're fighting to return one to the United States." These people are insane. This is one of his constituents, Chris Van Hollen, Senator Hollen, his constituent right here, Rachel Morin. And a lot of you might remember her story, right? This was the woman, and I believe the city is called Bel Air, Maryland, something like that. In Bel Air, Maryland, she was jogging, went out for a jog in Bel Air, Maryland, and was ambushed by an illegal immigrant. I'll pull him up right here. She was ambushed by this guy right here, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, in Bel Air, Maryland, as she was hiking. He ambushed her. He essentially beat her to her demise. If I remember correctly, he violated her as well. Violated, you guys know what I mean when I say violate. I never like to say the word, but it's the R word. He violated her as well. And also, if I remember correctly, when other hikers found her, right, and reported on finding this woman who's now deceased, she was stripped completely naked, right? And this is the guy right here. He did this in Bel Air, Maryland, and they caught him in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he fled the scene. And mind you, his trial ended today, and he was found guilty, right? He was found guilty. Once again, this man right here. But you have guys like this running around doing the heinous acts that they've done. And then you have senators like Chris Van Hollen who completely turn a blind eye to constituents like Rachel Holland who have lost their life behind evil people like Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. They turn a blind eye to it while asking or making these grandstanding demands that other MS-13 gang members be returned to the United States. How ridiculous and nonsensical is this? Once again, you are 21 percenters for a reason. And this shows why right here. So now what I want to do next is that I want to transition over to what happened today in the White House with Bukele, and when he was asked about whether or not he was going to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. But before we go there, I want to take a moment to listen to a little bit, or kind of a lot of it, because it's 8 minutes long, but I don't think we're going to do the whole 8 minutes, right? Of what Stephen Miller had to say prior, I believe this was pre meeting with Bukele, right? And I want to listen to it because he gets into the facts of Kilmar's case, which I think is important to do, right? To really get into the facts, to dispel all the nonsense that's being put out by the DNC press. And I also, most importantly, I really want to show you guys also how disingenuous the media is, because he's going to rip them to shreds at a certain point that we're going to see here. He's going to completely rip the mainstream media to shreds as they continue to ask these disingenuous questions surrounding Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So that's what I want to do next. So please, if you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, share this video on your social media platforms, and follow me on Telegram. And let's get into this video with Stephen Miller next.
No, but this whole entire conversation has been wrong from the beginning, because nobody was mistakenly deported anywhere. That's like the big fact that all of you, most of you, have gotten wrong. No one was mistakenly sent anywhere. The only mistake that was made is a lawyer put an incorrect line in a legal filing and has since been relieved of doing it. He is El Salvadorian. He is an illegal alien. He was deported to El Salvador. I would welcome anyone here to tell me what country they think we should be sending El Salvadorian illegal aliens to.
Didn't a judge order that he not be deported to El Salvador 5 years ago?
So what you're referring to is an immigration judge. So that's Article 2, not Article 3. So there was no Article 3 restraint on his removal. A withholding order or a cancellation of removal order, first of all, as I'm sure you know, does not eliminate the deportation order, right? We all agree on that. So his status was he's an illegal alien who's been ordered deported, which means he can be indefinitely detained and removed to any other country in the world, right? He can be sent to literally any country on the face of the earth. But the preference, general matter, is to deport someone to their home country, right? In this case, El Salvador. Because he is a member of a foreign terrorist organization, withholding orders don't apply to FTOs for obvious reasons. So if you had an illegal alien, say from Syria, who's a member of ISIS, they can't apply for withholding of removal. So that principle applies here. Furthermore,
I want us to really focus on what he was stating there, right? As it pertains to this here, and we've discussed this many times before. This is where a lot of the confusion lies. Withholding of removal. I'm going to read this here. This is something that I had posted on X a while back ago, right? Just concerning the facts surrounding this guy. Okay. He crossed the border illegally in 2012. He was confirmed as an MS-13 gang member in 2019, right? He applied for asylum. His asylum was denied because it was time barred. He exceeded the time that he could apply for asylum. Garcia was eligible for deportation, just not to El Salvador, because he was granted a withholding of removal. That's what they're talking about right now, to El Salvador. A withholding of removal is not a legal right to live in the United States. It simply means he can't be deported to El Salvador. Any third country would be sufficient. But as Stephen Miller was stating here, if you are a member of a foreign terrorist organization, FTO, which Kilmar is, that's void. Being an FTO, this doesn't apply to you. It doesn't matter if you got that that ruling down in 2019. And it's despite the fact that, once again, withholding of removal is not a legal standing to live in the United States. It's not. It just means you cannot be deported. At the time, he couldn't be deported to El Salvador. But once you're part of a foreign terrorist organization, which Kilmar is, as was verified in 2019 by an immigration judge, that went out the window. You are no longer eligible for that. That doesn't apply to you. It's void. Case closed. There's nothing to talk about. He's right where he belongs, in El Salvador, as a member of a foreign terrorist organization. Stop talking to me about the withholding of removal to El Salvador, and he shouldn't have been deported to El Salvador because of the withholding of removal. That doesn't matter. That is out the window once he was deemed part of a foreign terrorist organization, which he is. And that's been known and understood since 2019. So now let's get back into what Stephen Miller has to say.
the gang that he said was going to persecute him. So this theory that...
Rewind it back just a little bit.
Syria, who's a member of ISIS, they can't apply for Salvador because he is a member of a foreign terrorist organization. Withholding orders don't apply to FTOs for obvious reasons. So if you had an illegal alien, say from Syria, who's a member of ISIS, they can't apply for withholding of removal. So that principle applies here. Furthermore, the gang that he said was going to persecute him, so this theory that he's an MS-13 and there's this rival gang, the 18th Street gang, doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. So the entire concept is false. But again, when the media talks about the idea that there was a mistake in removal, it implies to, I think, a normal listener, the wrong person was sent somewhere. He's an illegal alien from El Salvador. Where was he sent? To El Salvador. Where does he belong? In El Salvador.
Right? It's different.
He belongs.
Sending someone home and sending them into a prison that they could remain in.
It is up to El Salvador how to handle the process for their own citizens. Again, what you seem to be asking us to do is to change the government and the laws of El Salvador. So if we deport somebody back to, for example, Syria, should we be closely involved on a day-to-day basis with the Syrian government, detailing that person's life and future? If we deport, say, 100,000 people back to Haiti, should we open a case file on each of those 100,000 people and ask every day, what's their housing situation? What's their healthcare situation? What might they need? What might they want? Once someone's out of our country, that becomes the problem of their host country, not our country.
You see how ridiculous and disingenuous these people are? Because if I heard her correctly, from what I remember, she stated, well, you know, so he's just deemed, he just get deported to where he lives in a prison forever. He's in his home country. Whatever is going on with him in his home country is his issue in between him and his home country. It's not up to us to determine or to dictate or to try to keep up with what's going on with an illegal immigrant that is deported to his home country once he's there. How ridiculous and nonsensical is that? Where now you're expected to keep tabs on every person that was deported to make sure that their living conditions that are okay, to make sure that they have enough food to eat, they have enough clothes to wear, that their medical needs are taken care of. How does that make any logical sense? These people are crazy. He's at home where he belongs. Whatever's going on with him at home is what is going on with him at home, period. These people are insane.
These people chose to invade us. So there's a lot of concern from the corporate media about the invaders, but they chose to invade us. It's our responsibility to return them back to where they came from or another country willing to take them.
Steven, is the president going to ask for him to be returned to the United States or not? Like, yes or no?
This is where Stephen Miller is about to lose it.
So first of all, it's not a question for me to answer, but I think that the assumption that underlies the question is what needs to be corrected, which is that there was no mistake that was made. He was said, like, so what? Let me ask you, so what do you think would happen to him if he came back to this country? As your understanding of immigration laws, what do you think would happen?
But I'm just asking.
It's important to know. You're asking a lot of questions.
The president.
You're asking. You were all asking a lot of questions about this, and you all seem to care about it a lot. So let's see if any of you have researched anything about this issue at all. Can anyone here tell me what would happen to the illegal alien from El Salvador if he came back to the United States? Does anyone here know? Does anyone want to guess? Any of you?
He could be with his family.
Does any of you know the answer to the question? Legally, what would happen if he came back here? Does any of you know? Any of you?
Do you really?
None of them are going to answer any of his questions. Just so you know, spoiler alert. Nobody's going to answer anything that he's saying. Think about this for the short amount of time that I've been covering this. Maybe like a week? Every answer that he's going to, every question that he's asking, I could answer because I've actually looked into it genuinely. Trust me when I tell you, they've looked into it genuinely too. They know the answers to his questions. They just don't want to answer the questions because they don't want to make their media outlet look bad and they don't want to make Trump and his administration look good. Trust me when I tell you, they know the answers just like how I know the answers. They're just being willfully disingenuous.
Anyone want to guess? Any of you?
He could be with his family.
Does any of you know the answer to the question? Legally, what would happen if he came back here? Does any of you know? Any of you?
Do you really
You've been-
believe
you've
the
been writing-
Supreme Court?
I'm talking
Do you
now.
really believe the
You
Supreme
need to
Court
stop.
doesn't
I'm talking now.
think you
Does
should be
any of
returned?
you-
Why was it unanimous?
You're done. Does any of you know the answer to the question? Does any of you? You've been talking about it for
They all
days.
would deport him again now.
He would be arrested.
Okay.
He'd be put in confinement. He would be deported the second time to El Salvador again because there's no withholding order for an alien who's a member of a foreign terrorist organization, number one. Number two is the gang that he's a member of doesn't exist in El Salvador anymore. So what you're asking for is to be deported twice. But additionally, if we chose to pretend, just pretend, that the withholding order was real, he would be deported to a different country. So, for example, he could be deported to Egypt. So, I'm just trying to understand, is it your view, in other words, you define a country that would be willing to take a MS-13 member from El Salvador. So I'm trying to understand from you all is, so if he came back and under our laws, he was then deported to Egypt or to Somalia, would you then be saying, great, I'm so glad that you deported him to another country? Is that what you'd all be saying? But do you understand our immigration laws at all? But the premise of your question, the gentlemen, the return, guys, do you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order? Do you know the difference? Any of you, please. Do you?
Well, we're not in the government.
But you didn't spend, so you couldn't even spend 72 hours over the weekend learning the distinction, even though you've been writing and talking about it this whole time.
Steven, we're not going anywhere. On the
Just
gold cards.
Just raise your hand. Does any of you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order?
How do you know that he's a member of MS-13? The White House.
He's humiliating them right now. You've been talking about this all this time, and you can't answer the most basic questions concerning this situation. Once again, these people are, they're not, I gotta say, stop saying disingenuous. They're not disingenuous. They're just outright liars. They're outright liars.
Said according to intelligence.
According to our government and his government. In other words, his government has confirmed with their own intelligence that he's a member of MS-13. First of all, do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
What's that?
Do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
No.
Please pay attention to this here, because I'm about to cut it off next. And I want you to, the disingenuous / lies, just, I shouldn't have cut it off. Forgive me. Just listen to this here. This line of questioning real quickly.
Just raise your hand. Does any of you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order?
How do you know that he's a member of MS-13? The White House has repeatedly said according to intelligence.
According to our government and his government. In other words, his government has confirmed with their own intelligence that he's a member of MS-13. First of all, do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
What's that?
Do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
No.
Okay. And do you dispute that as an illegal alien, we have the right to deport him?
Going through the
Did you hear how he went silent? I really wanted you to hear that there. Are you disputing that he's an illegal immigrant? No. Are you disputing that him as an illegal immigrant, that he shouldn't be deported? It's quiet. The obvious answer to the question is he's an illegal immigrant, therefore he should be deported. When he's asked, are you disputing that he shouldn't be deported even though he's an illegal immigrant? Silent. If he would have answered that question honestly, that reporter would have been fired on the spot. He would have gotten a phone call from whatever left-leaning media outlet that he works for, and he would have been let go, terminated immediately on the spot. That's why he was so silent. Let's hear that one more time, please. Then we're going to move on.
Confirmed with their own intelligence that he's a member of MS-13. First of all, do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
What's that?
Do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
No.
Okay. And do you dispute that as an illegal alien, we have the right to deport him?
Going through the
he went through the legal process. So I want to be very, what I'm getting from this conversation, which is educational for me, is that not one person in the media knows the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order. Is that a fair statement? You're learning about this all for the first time right now? I guess so. Okay. So the deportation order means the judge has said he must be deported from the country. He has no right to remain here any longer. He must be removed from the country. So his only options are to be deported to his home country or another country. That's it. There's no other option. He doesn't get to stay here. He doesn't get to live here. He has no future here. He has no right to be here. He's an illegal alien. So when you keep saying return, because you've been spun up by the open borders advocates, you all seem to be operating under the illusion that he would be able to come to the United States and just continue to live here illegally. That's not an option available to him. His only choices in life are to live in El Salvador or to live in another country. That's it. There's no other option, legally or otherwise, because he came to our country illegally. Do you understand that?
His only options in life is either to live in El Salvador or in another country because he came here illegally. I love how you phrase that there. Those are his only options in life. Okay? His only options in life is either to live in El Salvador or in another country, but not here. Stated very well. I want to pull this up on the screen right now too. I want to stick with the media for a minute, and then we're going to get into Bukele's statement, and then we're going to get out of here, right? But let's stay on the lying DNC press for a moment. During the meeting with Bukele, Donald Trump was really ripping a new one when it came to CNN. Oh, he was tearing into CNN so bad, and deservingly, because of the disingenuousness and just the lies that they engage in when reporting. And as he was just laying it in on CNN, what he stated was, if I remember correctly, that CNN hates our country, something of that nature. CNN hates our country, he stated. And CNN anchors answered to that. But as we listen here, I don't remember what this woman's name is. You all know I'm horrible with names, remembering names. What she's going to do right now is she is going to answer to the idea that CNN hates this country. And my whole thing is this. If you didn't hate the country, and if you truly love America, it shouldn't be any issue for you to be able to articulate that. If you love your country that you live in, you should be able to state that like this. No problem. I want you to listen to how difficult it is for this woman to articulate that CNN doesn't hate America. Or I quote CNN, we do not hate our country. Dana Bash, thank you very much, Benton Jr. Bay. Dana Bash. She's going to be humming and just listen to this here. Listen to this.
Definitely focus on a lot of some misinformation as well. But we want to digest all of this right now with our terrific panel here and our reporters. Jeff Zeleny, I want to start with you. You are at the White House. Before I get to you, I just want to say, for the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country, CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying. I've been here for 32 years, and I see a rhetorical device in him trying to say such a thing. That said, I want to focus on the news that we heard. And the news came out in...
Is it just me? Maybe I'm overthinking it. Was she struggling a little too hard just to articulate that CNN does not hate our country? I feel like she was struggling a little bit too much to say that. Let's listen to it one more time. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but maybe it's just me and I'm overthinking it. You were struggling way too hard to articulate that point. Something that should have just easily flowed off your tongue.
Definitely focus on a lot of some misinformation as well. But we want to digest all of this right now with our terrific panel here and our reporters. Jeff Zeleny, I want to start with you. You are at the White House. Before I get to you, I just want to say, for the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country, CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying. I've been here for 32 years, and I see a rhetorical device in him trying to say such a thing. That said, I want to focus on the news that we heard. And the news came out in...
Maybe it's just me, but she was struggling way too hard to get that point off. Way too hard, if you ask me. So now what I want to do next is we round things out and bring it to closing. I want to get into what Bukele had to say, because Bukele made it very clear, Bitcoin Bukele, that he is not returning Kilmar. He even went as far as to say that asking me that is preposterous, completely preposterous, that you even asked me a question like this. So as we round things out and bring it to a close, let's hear what Bukele had to actually say for himself. Let's get into this video clip next.
That no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. Well, no version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it per the court can only be directed to him.
I asked President Bukele, can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm suppose you're not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right? How can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Mark, do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin, except for Venezuela that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President, no, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
It's really that simple. It's really that simple. I mean, I just, this situation with Kilmar, I mean, it's not like the mainstream media press, they don't put their foot in their mouth on a regular basis, right? CNN, MSDNC, ABC, CBS, they always do. But this was just so unbelievably disingenuous how they covered this entire situation and tried to frame this guy as some like devout Christian who bakes cookies on the weekends with his child, and they go handing them out with the homeless in their church. That's far from the case. That's not who this man is. That's not what he did. That's not who he was. He was an MS-13 gang member, a known MS-13 gang member. He never refuted that he was an MS-13 gang member in 2019 when the court denied him, the immigration court denied him bond. He didn't refute it, didn't fight against it. At that point, once the truth came out, he turned around and stated, well, I need asylum because if I go back home to El Salvador, I'm going to get my life taken from me by the 18th Street gang. And they couldn't grant him asylum, but they did grant him at the time, I believe what it's called again, the withholding of removal. Meaning what? He has no legal standing to be in the U.S. He just simply could not be sent to El Salvador, right? But even with that, since Bitcoin Bukele took over, guess what? 18th Street gang does not exist anymore. MS-13 does not exist anymore. The threats on your life have been eradicated. So as it pertains to that withholding order, they could vacate for a motion to make it null and void, but you know what made it null and void? The fact that he's a member of a foreign terrorist organization. Terrorists cannot apply for a withholding of removal from their home country or any specific country. When you are a terrorist, part of a foreign terrorist organization, that immediately makes that null and void, or I should say, it's not even available to you. Okay. So this situation is open and closed. There's nothing to talk about here. There's nothing to argue here unless you're a delusional DNC lunatic or a disingenuous DNC lunatic or a lying DNC lunatic. Okay. Well, then I guess you want to carry on with this. But there's nothing to discuss here. The guy's gone. Good riddance. Shouldn't have been here in the first place. And it is what it is. And with all that being said, that does it for today's stream. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please smash the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. If you're watching me on X right now, please remember to repost this. All 43 of you that are watching me on X, please repost this. For those of you who are watching me on Rumble right now, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel on Rumble. And let's get into some of the super chats. I appreciate the support that you guys show me. I don't exist what you guys support. So it does not go without, what's the word I'm looking for? I forgot what the word that I'm looking for is. But I'm very appreciative for the support that you guys show me. Okay, so let's get into some of the help, some of the support that you guys show me right here. Some of these super chats. So shout out to Cynthia Haynes. Cynthia Haynes stated, "What about our black men's plural who have been falsely accused and wrongly incarcerated?" Those who have been falsely accused and wrongly incarcerated should be let out of prison. I'm not sure, Cynthia Haynes, respectfully, what that has to do with this particular situation here concerning Abrego Garcia, but for those who have been falsely accused and wrongly incarcerated, they should be released. I think we can all agree on that. Shout out to Ross Mickens, DMV. Ross said, "So tired of mainstream media calling him a Maryland father." That was part of the spin job. That's part of the spin job. Mistakenly deported and Maryland father. They would only refer to him as Maryland father. So tired of MSM, mainstream media, calling him Maryland father. He is an El Salvadorian. Salute to President Trump and Bukele. Thanks for covering this story. No problem, Ross. No problem at all. Shout out to College of Natural Health Science, BDA. My black dog, thanks, TD, and a union member for this great AI information. For those of you, College of Natural Health and Science, BDA, remembers everything. That's what I love about you, BDA. For those of you, I haven't said that in so long, but pre-election, I used to refer to myself, and I still refer to myself. I haven't said it in a while, but I used to always refer to myself as a Russian bot powered by artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, right? I'm a Putin-created Russian bot powered by artificial intelligence and ChatGPT to push misinformation on YouTube and trick you all into voting for Trump. I haven't said that line in a very long time, but I appreciate you for reminding me about that. That definitely made my evening, and I got you right here. Give me a second. Hold on. I got something for you. You know, I got something for you. I got what you want, because you better thank a union member for Bukele.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
You better thank a union member for Bitcoin, Bukele. Shout out to Ross. Ross ran it back. Ross said, "Time to flood Van Hollen's office with phone calls." Yeah, that guy is ridiculous, man. That guy is ridiculous. Like I said, that's grandstanding at his finest. Demanding to have a meeting with Bukele. You're like I said, you're a mere senator, and I say that in respect to when you're in standing next to Bukele, right? You're just a mere senator. Who are you making demands saying, "I want to meet with Bukele this week, and if Kilmar isn't returned by midweek, I'm gonna fly out to El Salvador"? See, you're not gonna fly out to El Salvador and do anything. You're not gonna fly there. You're gonna fly out to El Salvador and find yourself stuck in CECOT. Okay. You're gonna find yourself in the same prison with Kilmar, okay? If you fly over there, let's stop playing games, okay? Before you find yourself in a sticky situation. Papa and I and Shelly said, "There's zero confusion. The dude is the dude a U.S. citizen or not? Obviously, he's not. We're letting these folks keep moving the goalposts now. You just GTFO my country and STFU." I'm right there with you, Papa Shirley. I'm right there with you. Shout out to Ross for being a member for 20 months, 21 months of service. I appreciate you, Ross. Thank you so much. Benton Jr. Bay said Dana Bash is a struggle queen. She was struggling way too much for me, man. That was a very simple statement to respond to on whether or not CNN hates our country. She was struggling way too hard to answer that question, if you ask me. Struggling way too hard. It's not that difficult. CNN, College of Natural Health and Science, BDA said, make CNN love America again. It's not happening. That's not happening. Ross said the MSN, the mainstream media is so goofy. They are the clown core. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. These people, they're clowns. They're disingenuous. They're liars. All the above. All the above. And like I said, fortunately, it appears that now in today's date, the people can see through it. It appears that they can, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And with all that, that does it for today's stream. So thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platforms. Make sure you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram's in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Repost if you're watching this on X right now. Repost, retweet, re-exit, whatever it's called now. And shout out to those of you who are watching me on Rumble. Make sure you like the video on Rumble as well and subscribe if you're new to me on Rumble. I'll catch you guys later. Peace and have a great evening.